one of the foundations of Enterprise Connect is messaging. Not just one or two types, but messaging in all ways, which is why we are speaking with Mr. Rick Hamilton. He is the Eastern Regional Technical Manager at Valcom. Thank you very much for taking time to speak with us, Rick.
My pleasure, Father, as always.
Now, yeah, you've been here several times.
Yes.
We've always had a wonderful conversation. This year, however, it's a bit more pressing. It is a bit more serious because the service that you've been offering the last few years, in fact, the service that you've talked about on this very vidcast series, is about what happens when you need to reach out to a lot of people at once.
That's correct.
Through many different technologies. That's what Valcom is all about.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, what we've seen, and this really isn't with the most recent tragedies, it's in everybody's mind. However, unfortunately, this has been going on for quite some time.
Yeah.
And what we've seen is that our traditional offerings in the school market, the K through 12 market, would be traditional intercoms, paging systems.
Yeah.
What we've seen is those are now morphing into more of a mass notification system. The traditional functionality of an intercom paging system is still being used. However, the part of the buying decision process now is the mass notification and emergency notification piece of it. So of the 42,000 different schools that we've done over the years, that is becoming more and more of certainly an important part of the decision now.
And something that you told me 2 years ago was that it wasn't enough just to think of the communication systems.
That's correct.
Not just paging. It's not just intercom.
Absolutely not.
There's the mentality of the process.
Right.
How are we going to do this? Who do we have to contact? Who are the people who need the information?
That's correct.
That actually pushes the technology that you buy.
That's correct. And those are all decisions that need to be made ahead of time. Too, that those sort of things are not something that the school or the principal needs to decide at the moment that tragedy happens. Those are things they need to have thought about beforehand and put a procedure and the proper solutions into place to be able to handle it.
And I would imagine that this is a touchy subject because you're essentially selling them something for the worst day of their lives.
That
of their
is
history.
correct. And we've looked at it that way too, and it's something that the way we really wrap our minds around that is that we're selling a system that can minimize the damage from those sort of situations. We're not capitalizing them, we're trying to save lives. So the more of those different situations are handled ahead of time and you have the right system for it, obviously the safer it is and safer environment for everyone.
Right. Let's get down to brass tacks here and talk case studies because you've got two very good ones.
Yes.
Northwestern University and Florida International University. They're among your case studies in higher ed.
Right.
Tell me, what did you learn from those case studies?
Yeah, both of those are similar in a way in that they both started out as dorm room notification. And what had happened is that a lot of the universities, FIU in particular, they were phone companies. They had their own PBXs. They provide phone service to the students. And as they became less and less a provider of phone service, and more students had cell phones, etc., they didn't have any way for those students to be able to dial 911 that would get the correct responders to their dorm room.
Right.
So FIU, and as I said, Northwestern was pretty much the same scenario. In those cases, they needed a solution that the students could push a button in their dorm room and it would ring directly into the public safety department on campus and not go to the local police or fire department that would take a lot more time to be able to answer those calls. So that's really where both of those came from. Now they have since morphed into full-on across the campus mass notification systems, but they started off with a need that was relatively simple to start with, but they've turned into very large projects of mass notification across the entire campus.
Speaking of those mass notification projects, it would seem to me that the solutions that you've been pushing, they lend themselves to an Internet of Things.
That's correct.
These, panic buzzers everywhere, or just sensors so that you know what's going on, so that you can get the right information to the right people.
That's correct.
What steps are you taking to incorporate IoT?
Well, quite honestly, that's something that's kind of taken care of itself over the last couple of years because, I've been in this business a long time, and people used to look at speakers and horns and individual pieces and parts, where now we're part of a solution. They really don't look at us as a speaker manufacturer anymore. We're providing a solution. So the Internet of Things kind of wraps itself around us, and that we're not providing a speaker, we're providing a way of getting information to people. It's not just a sign, it's a way of getting information to people. So it's not really boiled down to pieces and parts. It's actually an entire solution that we're pleased to be able to offer all of those pieces and parts too, but it still works as a solution.
Let me ask one last question,
Sure.
sort of a blanket question. If there was an administrator out there who was maybe looking at upgrading their on-premise technologies, their on-premise capabilities, what would you want to say to him or her?
Yeah.
What would you want to tell them to make this planning process a little less macabre, and a bit more hopeful, and a bit more, okay, this is something that we need to do as our responsibility as caretakers for our students?
Correct. Yeah, one thing that I could recommend to them is contact us. We've been doing this a long time. We can help you work through that maze. We're experts at something that may very well have just been dropped in your lap. So we know how to deal with it. Valcom is very adept at retrofitting existing equipment, so we try to leverage whatever it is that the customer has already invested in, so we don't require a forklift upgrade. We make it as painless as possible to provide a solution that will, should that terrible event happen, to save, to be able to save people. So that's our goal.
It's a hard message, but it's a good one.
Absolutely.
It's a good one. We've been speaking with Rick Hamilton. He is the Eastern Regional Technical Manager for Valcom. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you, Father, as always.
If you could please tell the audience where they can find you, where they can find Valcom, where they can find out more information about maybe upgrading what they already have.
Yes, the easiest way to contact us is just to go to our website. It's valcom.com, very easy to find. Our phone number is also 1-800-825-2661, which is 1-800-VALCOM-1. So we're very easy to get in touch with. Please give us a call or drop us a line on the webpage. We'll get right back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Rick. It's good to see you. I'm sure I'll see you again next year.
Absolutely.
Come Enterprise Connect.
All right.
Be sure to stay tapped because we've got more from Enterprise Connect. Just click one of the other videos to find the little vignettes, behind the scenes, and interviews from our event here in Orlando, Florida.